My mother passed away on a Sunday in April. She had been sick for a long time. We had the conversations you have when someone you love is running out of time. She told me about her childhood, things she regretted, things she was proud of, people she wanted me to remember. But there was one conversation she kept putting off. Every time I tried to bring it up, she changed the subject. After she passed, I found an envelope on her nightstand, my name on the front, her handwriting, and underneath my name, 4 words, "Open after I'm gone." I want to tell you what was in that letter. I want to tell you what she had been too afraid to say out loud. And I want to tell you what happened the night I finally did what she asked me to do. I waited 3 days after the funeral. I sat with that envelope on my kitchen table, and I waited 3 days before I could open it. When I finally did, the letter was 2 pages long. My mother's handwriting. Careful, deliberate, the way she wrote everything when it mattered. She started by telling me she loved me. She told me things I already knew, and things I didn't. And then, on the second page, her handwriting changed. More urgent, she wrote. There is something in this house that has been here since before you were born. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it stays, but I have lived with it for 40 years, and I know one thing about it. It leaves certain rooms alone. The rooms where I pray, where I read my Bible, where I keep these things close. It has never once, in 40 years, entered my bedroom, because I never once let a night pass without Psalm 91. I know you don't believe the way I do. I know you stopped going to church a long time ago, but I need you to hear this as the last thing I will ever ask you. Whatever you believe, do not stop praying in this house. Do not let it think you have forgotten what keeps it back. I read that letter 6 times. Then I put it back in the envelope, and I told myself, my mother had been sick for a long time. The mind does things when the body is failing. I told myself that for 3 months. I moved into her house after she passed. It made sense practically. It was paid off. I had just ended a lease, and some part of me, the part that wasn't ready, wanted to be somewhere she had been. The first month was grief. Everything was grief. The second month, I started noticing things. The temperature in the hallway, cold in a way that had no source. The feeling, specific and consistent, of being watched from the corner of the living room. The dreams, not nightmares exactly, more like a presence in my sleep, something standing at the edge of whatever I was dreaming, never entering, just waiting. By the 3rd month, I had started sleeping with the lights on. I had started avoiding the corner of the living room. And I had started, without fully acknowledging it, staying out of my mother's bedroom. Because her bedroom felt different from the rest of the house. Lighter, like a room that had been cleaned of something, emptied of a weight the other rooms still carried. I stood in the doorway one night, and I understood something I hadn't wanted to understand. My mother's letter was right. It was a Tuesday. I was in the living room at 11 p.m., working on my laptop. The corner of the room, the one I had been avoiding, went cold, not gradually, the way it goes cold when something moves into a space from somewhere else. Instantly, completely, I looked up from my laptop. The corner was dark, nothing visible, but the feeling of something looking back was the strongest it had ever been. I sat completely still. My mother's letter was on the bookshelf. I had put it there because I couldn't throw it away and couldn't keep it close. I got up. I got the letter, stood in the center of that living room, and I read it again. Her words, her handwriting, her last request. And when I reached the part about Psalm 91, I put the letter down. I picked up my phone. I opened the Bible app my mother had sent me a link to 2 years before she died, that I had downloaded and never once opened. I found Psalm 91, and standing in that living room, in the cold, facing the corner directly, I read it out loud. Not because I was certain, not because I had suddenly become faithful, because my mother had spent 40 years protecting this house with these words, and she was gone. And something in me that was older than my doubt refused to let that protection die with her. The cold broke while I was still reading, not at the end of the psalm, not dramatically, midway through, on verse 7, 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. The cold simply was not there anymore. The corner looked like a corner, just a corner, dark because the lamp didn't reach it, nothing more. I finished reading anyway, all of it, twice. Then I sat down on my mother's couch, and I stayed there until morning. I called my aunt the next day. I told her what was in the letter. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said she told me about it once, years ago. She said she had made a kind of agreement, not with it, but with something stronger. She said as long as she kept her end, it stayed in its place. She was worried about what would happen when she wasn't here anymore to keep it. I asked my aunt what my mother's end of the agreement was. She said, Psalm 91. Every night, out loud. She never missed a single night in 40 years. I haven't missed a night since that Tuesday, not one. I sleep in my mother's bedroom now. It took me 2 months to be able to do that. But I understand now why it always felt different, lighter, why the weight the other rooms carried never crossed that threshold. 40 years of the same words, said out loud, every night, whether she felt like it or not, whether she was tired or sad or frightened. Every night, without exception. She didn't tell me about it because she didn't want me to be afraid. She didn't tell me because she wasn't sure I would believe her. She wrote it in a letter she made me promise to open after she was gone, because she knew that sometimes the only way to make someone listen is to not be there anymore when they finally do. I keep her Bible on my nightstand now. Her copy, the one she used, margins full of her notes. I read Psalm 91 every night in her handwriting because she marked it, underlined certain lines, wrote small notes beside verses that had meant something to her over 40 years. Every night I read her words alongside his. And whatever is in this house stays exactly where it has always stayed, in its place, because the agreement my mother made is still being kept, just by different hands now.